So I want to just recap a little. I watched your video on the old lady and the young lady.
Okay,
It's a Gestalt picture.
right.
And basically, of that, I heard several things that interested me. One was that when I see the young woman, and at least that I have a different sense of myself. Like I like myself. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
I'm a good guy, you know.
Yeah,
Even though
I'm
I see
young.
her, she's, yeah, right.
Right.
When I see the old hag, then I don't like my, I was like, oh,
Time, getting old, time.
oh, I see.
Yeah,
So my sense of self changes with the
yeah,
different picture. That was one thing. Another thing you said, maybe in a different video, I'm not sure, but you project, like there's an unconscious self awareness or self something that gets projected onto the field. So, in other words, if I don't like myself, and we all know this, but it's how it
right.
really works. Well, when I see the young woman, I project this good sense of self onto the whole field. I like her, I like me.
Yeah,
And it's the other way around too. If I like myself, then I project that out.
yeah.
So my background of awareness gets projected onto the whole field. Is that close to what you were
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, I've several things as you were talking came to my mind. First of all, going back to the picture itself as a metaphor, I just love it because it has it gives you something you can hold on to. But when the two and these Gestalt realities are like the old woman is a total reality, which includes myself and what I'm seeing, and then the young woman is a contradictory reality, which is a Gestalt. You see, so you got two Gestalts that are mutually dependent but contradictory. So they oscillate.
Well,
See, because and you can experience that, as you look at one, the other one crossfades into it, and the other one crossfades back. So there's a search for the one, but it cannot be found in either one or the other gestalts because there has to be one. Like this is the law of the universe. There has to be one reality, but it's two.
okay. So what I tuned into that is my self belief changes as that
Yes.
reality changes.
Yeah, those are realities, right?
And that ties into this thing called EMDR. I'm
Yeah.
movement desensitization reprocessing, which basically you pick the worst experience you've ever had and get a picture of that,
Right.
and then find the negative self belief associated with it.
Aha.
That's basically
Okay.
operant conditioning
Right.
paired up this negative self belief. I'm no good. I'm pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
With this in this with the picture with the
All
felt
right. Getting
sense.
getting back to the picture as the metaphor, as what we can look at. So you're oscillating between the young woman and the old woman. Neither one can hold two conflicting realities.
Okay.
So where is the one? Well, the one that contains both is the ink blot. So the ink,
The whole field.
the whole field is the ink blot prior to the perception of the young or the old woman. So if you show that to somebody, there's, well, I just see an ink blot. And then, oh, the old woman rises up. And, but then you say, well, there's two. Where's the young woman? So now they struggle to find it. So now I got to find, the master told me there was two, but I see one. There must be two. So now I struggle. Then I relax the struggle and the young woman pops up. Now I see both, but I can't hold both because they crossfade back and forth. So the one is the ink blot or the potential that is prior to the pair of opposite realities. So what I'm seeing, what you're saying, is that when you start moving the eyes back and forth or bring up the old traumas, you're reincarnating or creating the oscillation intentionally, so that you can hold yourself in the oscillation without being driven to know one or the other. So you suspend the need to know one or the other as the one, you see, because you can't. You suspend the need to know, and you kind of like rest, the oscillation is okay. And in that resting there in that intermediate zone, the single idea is created that unites both, which is kind of like you go back to the potential ink blot and recreate a whole new reality that is one. So that single idea that is created by resting in the oscillation is your true nature or your whole being instead of divided. So now you become one that includes both the old and young lady. So the trauma and the not the trauma, the good and the bad self, are now included in a single creative idea of who I am that creates itself out of the duality. So the idea is to rest in the oscillation so that the creative force of you, which is life itself, is able to break through that window, that metaphorical window, to create a new self that is not divided. And that new self then is in alignment with what is, with reality, instead of projecting young and old woman on reality. There is no projection. You just are. You just are this. No projection.
Yep. Yep. One of the things we think is happening is that because this memory, the worst thing that ever happened to me,
Yeah.
is so uncomfortable, the mind, that's the oscillation. It'll move away from it. I'll do something else. I'll look somewhere else. The
Yeah.
mind will automatically, I can't sit with it.
I'll take my mind off, do something. Yeah.
The mind will
Go play golf.
automatically,
Go play golf
or
or
in an
something.
instant, well, have a sexual thought.
Right.
Just
Or,
do something
or
else.
or have a martini.
Right. Take several though.
Yes.
That's the trouble, By the time you've had enough martinis to sit with
Yeah.
the discomfort, you'd be passed
Yeah.
out. Anyway, so the idea is though that by pulling up that thought and then moving the eyes back and forth, this is one idea.
Yeah.
That the conscious. So here we have about the triune brain. There's the
Yeah.
brain stem. There's
Yeah.
the limbic brain, and there's the thinking brain. And what we're doing is we're activating memories, picture, image, felt sensation,
Right.
emotion, fear, anger, grief, and then the negative self-belief in being held in the limbic brain. All right, so we activate that, and then we use the eye movements, or called bilateral stimulation,
Right.
to distract the thinking brain. And
Yeah.
in that way, it did exactly what you said, which is basically you're sitting in the
Right.
field of discomfort, but you're able to stay with it for like
Yes.
40
Yes.
minutes. Then
Yeah.
in that process, the brain, well, the EMDR way would be to say that it starts
Yeah.
linking up with the bigger picture. So
It heals itself.
it
Yeah.
heals itself.
Yeah. You stop shaking the snow globe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a distraction, the eye movement.
Yeah. Yeah. Another way we all approach this different ways. One way I approach it is getting back to that Gestalt picture. Is that if I see the old woman or the young woman, the foreground of the old woman has a negative meaning because I project a background of my story behind it.
Let's go through
So,
that again.
all right. So when I see the old woman,
Do
I
you have
start
the
feeling
picture?
bad about myself.
Can you reach
Okay.
over and find the picture?
Yeah. Hold on just a minute.
Just because it might make it more alive.
Okay.
You sleep with it under your pillow, right? There you go.
There. It was in my other. It was in my my production room where I do my talks. I have a lot of props and I pull them up. Yeah. So there we are. So the idea here is that when I see the old woman,
Well, I see the young woman, so we're in trouble. I can't pull up the old woman. So how do I? Oh, there she
all right,
came. Okay, what I did is I stayed with the young woman. The old woman popped in, like you said,
okay.
3 seconds.
Anyway, you can oscillate back and forth.
Yeah, right.
But the thing is, so there has to be one. So it has to be the old woman. So I try to hold that. But the old woman has a meaning because factually it's just some lines on the paper.
Right.
Right. But it has meaning because I project a background behind it. Like this is a green screen. This is foreground. But foreground objects don't have any meaning unless they're in a context. So objects have a positive or negative meaning to me because of the context in which the background or the context in which this foreground is focused on. So the meaning of the old woman of myself is being negative.
Yeah.
I don't like myself. The reason I don't like I don't like myself is because of the background story I project behind it that the old woman is referenced to.
Which is in my unconscious memory,
Yes.
in what's
Yes.
known as implicit memory,
Yes.
and it's been created in. This is a way to look at it, I guess.
This is, yeah.
Been created in my life through a series of experiences that
Yeah.
that tell me about myself.
It's my story. So everything I see then references my story and has meaning referenced my story, where somebody else would see it and see an entirely different meaning.
But when
So
you,
the meaning is not in the object, but in the background.
the
I
story,
project on it.
right? But
Okay.
what is not clear to me when I hear this, when you say story, that sounds like a conscious story of my life that I've made up. And what I guess this more subtle distinction would be, it's the story as I've lived through my life and had zillions of experiences.
Right.
My unconscious mind has created this felt sense of who, and it's two things. And I'm asking, not
Right.
anyway. One is how I fit in the world, or how the world fits in me. Maybe that's the oneness piece.
Yeah. Okay. So the story basically is the meaning of me in the world, and it's consistent, so that I'm not just a bunch of momentary fragments of data. So my story gives me a consistency in the world. I have a past and a future, and I have a cause, which is in the past, parents, whatever you see.
Oh,
And I have a purpose. I'm going to the future. So the whole thing gives my sense of self a place in the world. And so I'm very threatened if my story is questioned, because it questions my place in the world, which is my identity. So, but the idea that I work with is that the foreground has meaning because it's reference to a projected story on reality that is my story of reality, you see. But it and this is where Joseph Campbell keeps talking about making the transcendent transparent. In other words, making the foreground old lady transparent to the whole, which would be the transcendent. So this has taken me 80 years
yeah. Let's
to
go through that
finally
again.
to finally get up to make this happen, not only in my own life, but in my communication of it.
So let's go through what you just said. Make the foreground old lady transparent to the background.
To the transcendent, not the background.
What is
the background?
transcendent?
The background is the old lady. The meaning. Everything's about meaning. You see, the old lady or the young lady has meaning, good or bad. because of the background in which I place it, but the background is projected by my unconscious like a green screen. So you got a green screen and you put somebody in front of it. If it's a weatherman, he may be, you know, he's a weatherman because he's standing in front of a weather map that's put behind him by a green screen. But suppose he's put in the jungle somewhere.
Hold your picture up a little so we can see. There you go. Well,
Yeah, you see what I'm. So anyway, the idea here is that
yeah.
the foreground, which is real. Now I don't mean here it's a metaphor, but if I'm looking at you, I mean you are a foreground. I'm not looking at the room behind you and looking around and picking out things in the room. So you're the foreground in a background, but you have meaning because of the context in which we're talking to each other. But suppose this foreground of you stayed there and suddenly the whole context, you were selected out like in a Photoshop thing, and I selected you and I put behind you some contradictory or absurd background. So now you as the foreground would be referenced to a different background, and the meaning of you would change. Because the meaning of you I have right now is because you are in this background of the video tape and the, in other words, so you're referenced to a particular context. But if I took you out of context, I could change the meaning of you. So what I'm working with is the idea that we project the background from our story, which is my memory, onto reality, and then I reference whatever I experience to that background, and it has meaning, good or bad meaning, and it reinforces my story. So everything is evidence to reinforce my story. Now, in this particular picture, as a metaphor again, it is the transcendent background of wholeness that is unified is the ink blot. So the pure ink blot that has no faces in it is transcendent of the experience of either the young or old woman. So transcendence just means beyond experience. So my experience is the young or the old woman, each of which are contradictory, but each has its own reality meaning. Like you said, I see the old woman, I have a different reality of myself. Then I oscillate and see the young woman, say, oh, I'm not so bad. I'm, yada, yada. But then, oh my God, I'm bad. But wait a minute, maybe, that's neurosis. I can't be one. I'm divided. But the transcendent reality is the ink blot. So when this becomes transparent, what is the transcendent? I'm transcendent to my potentiality, which is unknown. The transcendent is not known. Beyond experience is not known.
Because
so I'm open to the creativity of myself. You see, and I don't know who I will be because creativity means something entirely new. So I'm entirely new every moment.
hold it, because when I see that reality as transcendent, I'm also transcendent.
Yes.
Is that right? In other words, I'm
Yeah.
no longer projecting onto that reality, onto the ink blot. I'm
When we
also the ink blot.
Yeah, I've really fallen. I fall into Zen a lot because not as a formal practice and run around doing Zen rituals and stuff. I mean, just the core sense of Zen as transcending the opposites, which is exemplified by the cone. The Zen cone is a pair of opposites that invites you to transcend it, but you don't know what it is when you transcend it. You see, it's aha, but I didn't know what it was until I transcended the opposite. So this is like a cone that invites you to transcend it and discover yourself as one. But that is a creation because you see, it's beyond your experience of the past. So you're invited to leap out of your experience of yourself as part of a story that is created by memory, you see. And the illusion is that I'm experiencing myself for the first time, but I'm really experiencing myself as the reincarnation of my past. And so I can't break out of that. I can't break out of that reenactment of myself moment after moment, you see, until I suspend the need to know who I am, which is the past. So I can only suspend that need to know who I am when I can rest in the oscillation between the two realities, which are both based on my need to know one reality. So if I suspend needing to know who I am, then out of that intermediate zone, where the oscillation is kind of like, I was looking at your fan there, it was suspended. You couldn't see the fan because it was oscillating. And the oscillation created wind. So the oscillation of the fan created wind, you see. So the creativity comes out of the oscillation between the two opposites, which is creativity is the conditions for creativity to happen is when we suspend the need to know the one reality, which when it's divided is going to be either the old woman or the young woman. So the suspension, by what you said, by creating the oscillation through the movement of the eyes, creates a portal between the two realities that are contradictory. And through that portal, I recreate myself. And I don't know who I will be because I'll be spontaneous. Creativity is spontaneous. So I'll be spontaneous for the first time in my life. And when you're spontaneous, you're whole. Because you're not planned. I have no teleprompter.
Right.
See, I'm creating myself when I'm spontaneous, but this creativity is not just like random foolishness. It has intention. The intention to be one, the intention to be whole. So I think what we're looking at here is we come to the point where the pain of oscillation of trying to make myself the old or the young woman, one or the other, I got to be one, but now I'm two. So the pain of this inability to stabilize reality, which is called a double bind, where you lose no matter what you do. If I'm the old woman, I lose. If I'm the young woman, I lose because I'm not whole. So the intention of life is to be whole, but that intention can't break forth until we suspend the need to be whole by being one or the other of the pairs of opposites. So there's an suspension of knowing what to do, a suspension of having a strategy that will get me out of my fix. It's suspension of planning. It's a suspension of all hope, really. But yet at the same time, it's not nihilism or walking away and just getting drunk, saying the hell with it all. You see,
Right.
it's kind of like a meditation where I can't get out of this fix, but I'm curious about it. So let me just look at it.
And you're saying life can be lived in that mode.
Well, life is born in that. I mean, the one is born out of the two through the dissonance of the two when we relax the need to be out of the dissonance. Which means you just with meditation then, so when the trauma arises, instead of saying, oh my God, it's back again, you just rest with it. You just kind of like let it be there. I was talking about this morning, and I was using the metaphor of the clean your plate, so that we clean our plate on the go when we accept the negative event as a feeling instead of part of my story. I'm hurt. Who did it? You did it. Right then we create our story of being the victim.
Or how I'm going to get out of the story.
Or how am I going to get out of it? Yeah.
Right.
The strategy. And we try to get out of it by hurting the other person or eliminating the cause, which is the other guy or myself. But that splits the cause from the effect, the means from the end. But in the suspension of the duality, in the oscillation, the means and the ends are one. You know.
Well,
So that
if we go there, and I don't know that I want to, but I would just say that from my viewpoint or my experience, I would say
yeah,
that pull is so strong. The pull, I guess, to become unconscious. That just watching the pain body arise and fall
yeah,
isn't good enough. Isn't enough. Well, I was unable to do it, I guess.
yeah,
And so that's where we come in with a procedure like
right.
EMDR to facilitate someone else's
Yeah,
process
yeah,
to detachment from the apparent negative feelings
yeah.
to allow
Yeah, I
them.
yeah, I really like what you're doing because it really looks like you are providing a tool that a person can use to liberate themselves from their own pain.
And what we do is we take, as you're talking, there's some
Yeah,
people that have what we call complex trauma. They've had lots of bad experiences,
yeah,
some just a few. But what we do is we take out, we take different experiences out of the background, out of the unconscious awareness, I guess,
right.
out of gets projected. We take different ones,
Out
and
of the store box, the memory store box. Yeah,
story box,
yeah, story box. Yeah,
and we weaken that charge enough. And I think it's an energetic charge that got bound into neurons, but I don't. That's a different
yeah,
paradigm, I think. At any rate, I guess we weakened them enough to where finally you can live in this place of, for psychology, would just be reduced
right.
oscillation.
Yeah.
It's not
I
as
was
strong.
getting back this talk this morning. I was using I'm using Tolle quotes to
Yeah.
open up the talk. I like that. It gives me a little bit of an anchor.
Well, I
And
watched
one
part of
thing
it.
and one thing he said in this quote, which was very succinct, was that um, the pain body is added to unless we face, accept, and let go of the pain. So, all right, so you're in Walmart and somebody bumps you and you feel this person hurt me in that sense. It was just a bump, but part of the story was that I'm a victim and this person has just made me a victim. So now I've got to bring justice by giving them the same amount. But anyway, to break that cycle, there's the first is the acceptance, which means that, okay, there's a feeling of pain when this person hit me or is facing it. Yeah, there's pain, there's suffering, there it is. And then I accept it, which means I don't blame it on the other guy. So I just accept it. Okay, it's a feeling, but I disconnect it from the story. And then I let go of it. So I can't let go of it unless I disconnect it from the story background upon which I project on reality, which makes me the victim of everything. So that moment right there is the practice of meditation or mindfulness, where I become mindful of a feeling, but that mindfulness is prior to the auto reaction of attaching that feeling to my story, which now gives me a place in the world as a victim. And now I'm on a roller coaster of pain until I either hit the guy or go home and reenact the story to all my neighbors, trying to get rid of the pain by telling everybody about it. And everybody agree, oh yes, they shouldn't have done that, yada yada. So there's like reenactment of the pain is a futile attempt to get rid of the pain. But to get rid of that pain starts at that instant of oscillation before the pain becomes the story of me. So that's to me, that's where the practice of meditation is all pointed, was to awaken that awareness, which is developed in meditation by just being aware of what the mind's doing, so that that spills out into life. So when the guy bumps you at Walmart, you become aware of the feeling of pain before you habitually attach it to the story, which blames the other guy for the pain.
And right
And when is
there, I would say
yeah,
before you become unconscious.
yeah, yeah, that's an unconscious step right there.
But once,
Consciousness would be aware of the pain as just a feeling
as the ink
before the
blot,
unconscious projection comes in.
in
Yeah,
other
yeah,
words, I'm living in the ink blot, but the minute I feel the pain and I become unconscious, I project the reality onto the situation
yeah.
and get caught
Which
up
gives
in that
me
reality.
which gives me that continuous place in the world of somebody who's always being bumped, you see,
Or trying to fix being bumped.
or trying to fix being bumped, right? To be number one, so I never get bumped again.
I get so
Yeah,
my own personal experience is that I haven't been able to do that effectively. That I need to go to someone else to move my eyes to get a
yeah,
different understanding. So I guess I can be less attached as I
yeah.
live, less reactive as I live my life.
Are you familiar with I Rest by Richard Miller?
No.
Okay, check that out. It's called, I've been teaching this for years. It is a guided meditation called Yoga Nidra, which he wrote a book, it's on Amazon, Yoga Nidra, and it's got a tape in there of this guided meditation. So Yoga Nidra, Nidra, by Richard Miller. And it's not very expensive, but it comes with a CD. And this guided meditation is 30 minutes, but it's broken down into 5 steps. And it is like a diving bell tour into the psyche. And if you ever had a yoga class, at the end of the yoga class, they do Yoga Nidra, where you lie on the floor in the corpse pose, and the instructor will take you on a guide down. Be aware of your face and the nose and the ears, and then be aware of the body, necks and arms. And it's kind of like a little interior tour of the body, like you might see on a documentary, about the body, and you go in a little spaceship through the body.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes you through subjectively, so that you begin to feel breath and body as sensation rather than a thought. And then you go through the body sensations, and then the breath, and then you go through feelings, feelings as sensation, emotions, and then you go through thoughts, seeing thoughts as beliefs, and then you come to the ego itself and personality. So you go all the way down to the bottom, and then you come back up. And it's if you go to iRest, Richard Miller's been teaching this. He's copyrighted iRest, but Yoga Nidra is not copyrighted. And he's been teaching this for traumatic people, militaries, PTS, military hospitals, veterans, very successfully, because it's been very successful with trauma. And so I've been teaching it to seniors for the last 6 or 7 years at Lifelong Learning Institute in Midlothian. And it's being the one thing that most people, all of them, get from it is that it helps with insomnia, because you can do it before you go to sleep. But the primary, as I look at it and have been teaching this, it seems to be a way you can disconnect your story from your actual feelings, sensations, and thoughts, which are connected to the story of me, your beliefs and all of that, you see. So it's an actual way of disconnecting as a practice that moment when you are bumped by somebody in Walmart and you feel a sensation of being bumped, but it becomes I hurt as soon as it's connected to a story.
So you
It's like
can, so in real time you can slow it
it
down
becomes
enough to where
it
you're
becomes
not.
the practice become you do the practice, formal practice, and it begins to spill out into your everyday life as a active practice rather than a formal practice that you might do at home, you know. And that's the whole point to me, of meditation, is that it begins as a formal, intentional practice, 20 minutes or whatever, but it begins to spill out as a portable practice spontaneously in your everyday life. So it begins to activate that that ability to disconnect the story from the event. So you're just responding to the actual moment rather than the story in the context, the event in the context of my unconscious story, you see. So that, and when you can do that, the energy that went into the maintenance of the story is now creative awareness. Because it takes tremendous psychic energy to maintain this story of me, you know, this heaviness of me, you know. So when that energy is liberated, it becomes free energy. And you're light and you're creative and you have more insight, you see, and joy. So it's taking back our energy from the storehouse of our zombie-like story, you know, our buried stories of me. And all these movies are about that. The zombies are coming up, you know. It's basically my story's coming up and walk. I'm dead. I'm a dead man walking. So anyway.
All right. I guess the other piece that was never clear to me before watching something you said is that picture represents, how do you say it? It's like we live in that picture all the time. The old lady, young lady.
Yeah, yeah.
In other words, we discriminate constantly in the picture we're seeing in front of us called the world.
It's a total gestalt. It's a total
Total
reality.
gestalt
And I think that our country is caught in that picture.
is what's
Because
happening
you got
right now. Right.
the right sees the young woman, and the other side is the old woman, and the left sees the young woman, and the other side is the old woman.
Right.
But you could have the same fact, the same event, and both faces will have an entirely different story. That's what's driving us crazy. We can't find the one truth or the one reality, because everything that happens immediately divides into two realities, neither of which can understand the other reality. But they're all based on the same facts. And that's a collective neurosis or psychosis. I don't know,
Right.
schizophrenia.
Whatever it is, it ain't.
Yeah, but it can't sustain itself because the one will either, the drive to be one will either destroy the whole thing or create a new one. And I think a lot of these people, these events, these volcanic events in society where somebody shoots up the Republican baseball team, they could not tolerate the dissonance between the two realities. So their only recourse was, since they couldn't take the creative course, took the destructive course, I'll just shoot the other side.
Which, you know, right in there, what you're saying is the people like the NRA and all
Yeah,
that, they're really saying, no, we need to be able to have our ability to destroy
the other side.
the other
Yeah,
side. We're
yeah,
not going to let you not
right.
take that
Yeah,
away from us.
this is my power to be number one over the other guy. Because you got a gun, you're number one.
But you get a gun too, so you could
Yeah,
also
well
do
now
that
you
to
got
me.
now you got the now you got a tennis match between two masters, neither of whom can defeat the other one, so the game goes on for days. So, you know, so we're kind of like in that, where you keep each side balances itself to the other, because there must be one, there must be zero, everything is some zero. So whatever gun one side gets, the other guy gets an
Two.
opposite power.
Right.
So the game always stays at a stalemate. And everybody's going crazy because the game can't end. You can't get to a transcendence. You can't get to the transcendent one. You can't create anything, which is transcendence. You can't create a new reality because you're stuck in the oscillation between the old realities. And that would be, that your individual who is stuck in the oscillation of their life because of the trauma. The trauma fixed them in a duality out of which they can't get.
A double bind, basically.
A double bind, yeah. So no matter what they do, they lose. So the only way to get out of that then is to create the intermediate zone where they see that all of their previous strategies don't work and they just let go. It's like my favorite story is my mother. When she was 100 years old, she was still driving at 100 and she lost her car keys and she was going in circles around the house. And I said, what's going on? She said, I'm going to have a stroke. I can't find my keys. I know they're in the house. So the next time I saw her, she was happy. I said, what happened? She said, well, I just gave it up to God. I said, I quit. I let go, the whole thing. And immediately I found myself walking to the bedroom and I put my hand on the sweater and there were the keys. So I use that as a metaphor or a story about surrender. You don't have to have God there, just the surrender of the effort to find the keys. And the body-mind then became one. So the body knew where the keys were. But the mind couldn't do it because it was oscillating back and forth between, I should find the keys, but I can't find the keys. I should find the keys, but I can't find the keys. Wow, 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 you see. So it surrendered and let go of that. And the body-mind, because her mind went with the body, but the mind didn't know why the body was going to the closet. So that was a transcendent act. That act of going to the closet was beyond the experience of her going in oscillation. Can't find the keys. I looked under this magazine 5 times. Maybe it's there. I just missed it before. I'll look under again. We all do that. Keep looking at the same place twice, like I missed it before.
Yeah,
but that's the double bind. No matter where I look, I can't find it.
But the time you did that and the third time you looked, there they were. That messed you up for life.
Yeah, right. That screws me up. Yeah, that's magic. That's magic. Yeah.
I've done that. All right.
Do you do courses or anything on internet, or is this more or less real time work that you do with people?
It's real time work I do with people.
Yeah.
And then I do trainings, or I organize teachers in this field to come to Dallas to do trainings.
Is that where you live in Dallas?
Yeah.
Okay.
In that area.
What time is it there now?
Well, it's 10 o'clock. So we're an hour behind.
Okay.
You're on the East
It's
Coast.
11 o'clock here.
Right.
Well, I'm in the process of my own journey. Basically, is that since I've discovered this Facebook, I quit teaching at the Lifelong Learning Institute, which I did each week for 5 years, hour and a half talk, and it would be a spontaneous talk. I would come in with a metaphor, or a couple of points, and it was anchored on the Yoga Nidra because they were practicing that. So I might be talking about, body sensations or whatever, but I would use everyday events, everyday things that happened in my experience as the metaphorical vehicle for the talk. So I really, that became a practice really of liberating my voice from the need for planning, the need for scripture, or the need for teaching a textbook. So you're anchored in what I've learned and all of the things I've studied. That's the ground. But upon that ground, you create a new talk spontaneously. So I didn't know what I was going to say until I said it. So I was informed by the talk as well as the people.
Yeah, that's what
So
Eckhart says he does.
yeah, and I know he does that because he's it's a spontaneous talk. Wait a minute. Hello,
It's Kelly. Where's Kelly?
over at the library,
She's where?
over at the bookend.
Oh, she's at the bookend.
Right.
That's why she didn't answer her phone to me.
Yeah.
It's for you. Okay.
All right.
Go out there.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay.
How's good in here?
Yeah. So that, and then I after 6 years there, I just kind of like burn out. So I left, and then Facebook Live started, and now I'm doing 2 classes a day, one at 8 and one at 5.
Right.
And I wake up in the morning and I look around. I listen to Morning Joe. I look at something or this or that, and an idea pops up, and energy comes with the idea, and I go to the board and I put down a few ideas, and talk happens.
Yeah, no, I've watched several.
And so it's really it creates its own energy, because I don't have any energy for the talk until the idea comes for the talk. And so it's like that idea is born out of this space of surrender, where it's okay that I don't have an idea. Oh my God, I got to have something to talk about. So there's a state of surrender, and it's out of that surrender that the creative idea comes, and the idea comes with its own energy. So I give the talk, and then I may write on it then I may ride that energy for the rest of the morning, commenting on it or whatever. And then I'm wiped out, and I take a nap. And then my wife and I watch a British mystery, and I have a martini, and I'm off again. It's a good life.
Okay, well, I got to wrap up. I got to go work on an old house.
Well, listen, I have really enjoyed our conversation, and this new vehicle here. I need to think about how I can integrate this into my life.
Yeah.
I've been trying to come up with an idea that will capture what I'm doing now in a way that won't kill it, that I can transmit it or share it with more people without killing it, in the sense that it becomes just textbook recreation of something, but keep it live, spontaneous, without exhausting myself, with it,
To where
creating something where so many people come in that I'm wiped out trying to
do it again.
keep all the plates spinning, So I haven't really come up with an idea yet how I can have controlled spontaneity. So anyway,
Well, this might be.
this is a good idea here, because I really need to talk one-on-one with a person for creative ideas to come up. I don't just sitting in a vacuum that's not in relationship with somebody does not stimulate the creative ideas.
Are you an old preacher?
No. I wanted to be a minister back in 1970, but I got to a seminary and they reviewed my application because I was a lone wolf and kicked me out.
That quick, huh?
Took about 3 weeks. I was accepted, and then I was rejected, and it was the best thing, because that steered me over to the Eastern wisdom, and I got a yoga and a guru, and went through all of that in the 70s, and then I gave all that up, and so forth. Anyway, I'm 80, and it's been a long journey, so I got a lot of I've seen a lot of stories, as I can see you do too.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well,
Yeah. All right.
let's do this again sometime. So,
Really enjoyed it.
all right, thanks a lot. really.
All right,
really
thank
fit
you.
in.
I'll
Okay,
see you.
See ya.
How do you get out of here?
I have no
Li-
idea. I'll
Says
end
leave.
it.
Says
Yeah.
leave meeting.
Leave meeting.
I'll
And
click
end
that.
it. Yeah, there you go. All right. Bye.
Leave meeting.